Hello, this is Julian with Coffee Reviews, and today we'll be reviewing the Mina wash processed Nicaragua from Manhattan Coffee Roasters. And there's the bag right there. And Manhattan based out of Rotterdam, Netherlands, and I know we said in the Tira video that we might take a brief break from reviewing a lot of Manhattan's coffees, but we did insert the caveat that it was going to be unless we found the Mina or the Zorro in store. Luck would have it, the day the Tira video was released, we happened to find this coffee in store. There were a whole number of reasons we wanted to review this coffee. That includes the fact that we don't have too many Nicaraguan coffees on this channel. We've never tried a Nicaraguan coffee from Manhattan. This coffee very much sounds like our flavor profile. We've heard so many positive things, and Manhattan is very popular with our subscribers, as so many people in the comments have listed them as one of the best and their favorite coffee roasters in the entire world. Great opportunity for us to try this coffee. This right here is day 18. And recipe we have for Manhattan is a 16:1 water to coffee ratio at 208 degrees Fahrenheit. Brewed through the Chemex, they're a light European for the roast profile. And let's start discussing the coffee. Day 10, and we'd say a pretty decent first impression, as the coffee exuded a lot of the traditional Manhattan sweet components that we've experienced in so many other coffees. One of the reasons we love them so much is their coffees are very, very sweet. And the most notable thing we were getting was this zesty citrus component we'd most closely identify with lime. Solid first overall impression. Day 12 went back, and we were getting a lot more depth and complexity to this cup, as it started off pretty sugary sweet, and as it had cooled down, we were getting a nice balance again of this zesty lemon lime component. They have listed on here a 7-Up flavor note. Would make a lot of sense. And before we start day 13, very quick anecdote, as just a couple weeks ago we purchased every single stone fruit in the markets to just kind of refamiliarize ourselves with these less commonly consumed stone fruits. So apricots, white peaches, white nectarines, we don't eat too many of those. So just kind of wanted to refamiliarize ourselves. So when we did come across a coffee that had those listed, we could see if we might be able to identify that. And can't help but feel that the white peach flavor note they have listed on here is extremely spot on, as white peaches are a little bit more sugary than they taste like yellow peaches. So given that we were getting this kind of unique sugary sweetness from this coffee, could definitely see the listed white peach as a spot on flavor note. And let's see here, most dominant flavor in this cup on day 13, and it did continue throughout. Pretty solid overall on day 13. Day 15 will identify this cup as being pretty consistent, as again, really bright and sweet, plenty of depth, complexity, including some of the more traditional Nicaraguan components, a slight bit of chocolate, slight bit of caramel, slight bit of nuttiness that you've experienced in a lot of these Central American coffees, but then it cools off into a more modern cup of coffee with these unique flavors, this very pronounced stone fruit, very pronounced citrus fruit. And then day 17, most notes we have the pretty robust Nicaraguan right at the start, almost some very sweet nuttiness before cooling down into these strong sweet fruits, as we had mentioned. Citrus component has died down ever so slightly on this day, where it was a little bit more pronounced earlier, making way for a little bit more of the stone fruit, specifically this white peach, to dominate a little more. Got a little bit of apricots too from time to time, so yeah, that was our impression. Pretty similar on day 18 as well. But let's go ahead and put up the tasting wheel so you can see what we were getting. And when we were making this tasting wheel, I couldn't help but kind of think that even the spice may be at level 2. It feels like there was almost a bit of everything in this coffee, as spice is the only one we have at level 1. But even then, it was probably a 1.5 and could probably push that to a 2, and kind of regret not pushing that to a 2. But things most worth noting, cleanliness level 4, finish level 4, sweetness level 4, and again with Manhattan's coffees, we often feel that they are maybe closer to a 4.5, but it's those abundantly, overly, unnecessarily sweet coffees that we usually push to a 5, so as a result, just kept it at a 4. Citrus fruit level 4, and on this final day it was probably closer to a 3.5, but throughout the life of this coffee it was closer to a 4, so that's why we left it at a 4. Stone fruit level 4. And not really peach, but definitely the white peach that had been mentioned and the apricot. So could definitely see a level 4 on that. And the thing we probably most wanted to discuss specifically was the florals, because they have a rose hip flavor note listed on here. And as somebody that's had so many heart coffees that taste overly rose water, overly rose pronounced, it was a little disappointing that I didn't pull out too many florals in this cup. When we were making this tasting wheel, really had to kind of hone in and focus specifically on the floral component, and even then, level 2, it was probably like 1.5 for me specifically, so I blame myself whenever I miss out on something like this, as I just could not find the floral, especially the rose that was supposed to be in this cup of coffee. And again, just blame myself for something like that, but everything else, body level 3, yeah, for a Nicaraguan. For the most part, like the way that the rest of this tasting wheel looks. As mentioned, there was at least a little bit of something, a little bit of everything in this cup of coffee. Right, overall thoughts and impressions of this coffee. So, you know what's really fun about this coffee is that it is a very modern Nicaraguan in the sense that typically, in my experience, having so many Nicaraguans in the past, you don't typically get these sort of flavors from this cup of coffee. So it's really impressive that Manhattan's able to pull out these flavors, have this really unique out there sweetness. This is unique for a Nicaraguan in my experience. That being said, I have to be completely honest, I don't really like white peaches, and I don't particularly like 7-Up, and this coffee kind of tasted like a white peach 7-Up essentially, which I know that's the listed flavor notes, but they were very spot on, and that's very much the way that this coffee felt. And given that I was most excited for the florals, and I never really got too many florals, you can see why this might not have necessarily been my favorite Manhattan coffee. I was really impressed with the way that it was done, but that being said, the flavor just was not necessarily something that I was looking for, just not necessarily my specific favorite from Manhattan. Even then, it was still a pretty solid cup of coffee. Enjoyed drinking it throughout, and found this to be a very unique and fun experience, even for a Manhattan coffee. So a lot of props to Manhattan for, again, another coffee that warrants being in their impressive catalog. Type of person I would suggest this coffee to is somebody that does like it is a very unique peach. I want to emphasize that as well again. And the citrus lemon lime component, as that's been pretty common in a lot of coffees I've reviewed recently as well. That's something that I have not necessarily been the biggest fan of. But if you like those two flavors, then I think this coffee is very spot on. I feel like there are some people that might be able to do a better job of pulling out this floral than I could. And I really hope you do, because I can imagine that adding that to what's already a unique cup of coffee would make it even more fun and enjoyable cup of coffee. So a lot of people I would suggest this coffee to, and I think I'm just going to leave this review at that. If you have by chance tried this Mama Mina, I know I heard a lot of people were purchasing this or wanting to purchase this coffee. I would love to know your thoughts and impressions of it as well. If you're enjoying the content, give this video a like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. This right here has been a review of the Mama Mina Wash Processed Nicaragua from Manhattan Coffee Roasters. Thank you for watching.